Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Winning Ways show. David Saffi, part two. We'll be chatting to David in a few minutes' time. But just to bring you up to date with all the action and everything that's happened so far in the last couple of days, we talk about the rest of the world first. And I brought you the news that Woodbine had a couple of positive cases of equine herpes, EVH1, in barn 12 there. And it's now turned out that there are 20 horses that are positive with EVH1 in Woodbine. They have tried to contain the virus, and one has died so far, which is quite phenomenal. It's very sad that we have this type of situation. And who knows what's going to happen with Woodbine Racing. They were about to open up certainly early in June and ready to get on with their big races. They've got some very good races there, Queen Elizabeth coming up. Well, that's not going to happen. Now, the second big bit of news is that New Zealand stopped exports to Australia with immediate effect. And that is because they picked up an unidentified virus in New Zealand and as a result have quarantined themselves. Now, what this means, in effect, is that there won't be any New Zealand raiders to race in Australia. I know New Zealand has opened itself up completely from COVID, but when you have an unidentified virus amongst the horses, this is very, very worrying indeed. And I think that New Zealand might be a big problem for them because they're a little country that exports a lot of horses to the East and to Asia, and certainly those areas, and Southeast Asia in there, and certainly to Hong Kong, they export a lot of horses as well. So this is a very, very big problem for New Zealand. Hi, Nikki. Nice to have you on again and back with us. You missed the last show. Well, I hope you caught up to date with it because we got some interesting stuff coming. The next bit of news is the juvenile policy in England. Now, the juvenile policy was that you got in by ballot, but because of the closeness of the races coming up at Royal Ascot, they've decided to use a system whereby the people that will get in first are the guys that had the most runners and success at Royal Ascot on a performance basis that they have. And any other stables that don't fall into that performance basis will be allowed to put forward one juvenile to be able to get to a race. Now, I think this is extremely clever as far as the British are concerned, and they've obviously gone through it and chatted to the trainers and the owners' associations about how to put this together. What it means that even if you're a small stable and you think you've got a juvenile that's good enough for Royal Ascot, you'll be allowed to get into a race for the horse to have a run. Hello, Mohammed. Nice to have you with us. You'll be allowed to have a horse run, which is great because it means that some of those smaller stables are able to get a horse in and run it. Racing at Longchamp's been moved from France to Deauville in most cases and to the outer outskirts and not inside Paris. They've moved from red zone, which was Paris, which was Longchamp, to the green zone. Now, that is quite interesting because it seems like they're going back into a problem where they're getting a second wave of the COVID coming. So they're trying to keep the racing out of the main city, which is Paris, and that's where Longchamp is. Now, another bit of interesting news from France was Clement Longuet, who I don't know, but he's apparently a Barcelona player and plays for the French national team, had his first winner with a horse called Bois d'Argent. Now, the interesting part about this is a young guy who's a football player for Barcelona. And a couple of his mates are very interested in what's happened with him. He's bought a couple of horses through Guzan Bozo, who's a very well-renowned bloodstock agent there. And they're with Henri Gaffard, who's a very good young trainer. Now, what's interesting about the story of Clement Longuet is that he was taken to the races by his father, who was obviously a guy who really enjoyed racing. And this is a very good lesson for us in horse racing. His father took him to the races a number of times when he was a kid and introduced him to what racing was all about. He really enjoyed himself. And as a result, now he's become quite wealthy as a Barcelona football player. And he's said that he's going to have a few horses. So he got a bloodstock agent, and we know Goodzone Bozo, he's a very good bloodstock agent, to take him to 3 trainers, and they would chat. He and his father went to 3 trainers, and one was Henri Gaffard. And they decided on him and to train their horses. Now, this is where you get the knock-on effect as far as youngsters are concerned. It's pointless trying to bring people to the races when they don't know what's going on. When their fathers or their uncles or their families bring them to the races, things happen. And that's what happened there. Suresh, nice having you. John, great to have you as well. And hopefully you're going to get some update on Formgrids, because I know you as a Formgrids user need to know exactly what's going on there, and David will keep us informed. Let's just go to South Africa before David calls us. And the big news was Jeff Woodruff has announced that he's moving to the Western Cape. So he's moving out of his Randjiesfontein setup. You know, his daughter Lucinda runs an operation there in the Western Cape. So he's moving there. The next news, which was not so good, was the proposed closing of Kimberley. And they're saying that Kimberley is definitely going to close at the end of the year. Now, I'm not sure that this is a good move, and certainly we don't know what's going to happen in the next week, never mind towards the end of the year. But I think we should be looking after the Kimberley trainers. I know that I've done a huge drive to get them parcels for their grooms, food for their horses. They really are on the back foot, those guys. They had 6 meetings in 3 months before the close down, and they're really battling. And if any of you would like to donate or help them, Cliffy Miller's the guy to get hold of. He is on Facebook. He's quite prominent there, and he did a very good Facebook thing as well. And we're looking forward to being able to help them. We have had some of the feed companies have come forward, and the Shams have delivered shavings to them. But that was a bit of a while ago. They've obviously got their bonus from the RA, which is a fantastic incentive. Talking about RA Pumalela, business rescue. Well, the creditors meeting is tomorrow. So basically the creditors, hello, Danny, we're all well. Hopefully the creditors meeting will shed some light of who's owed what by Pumalela. And Joe says, bad move. Well, Joe, bad move for you, buddy. You shouldn't be talking about bad things. This is only about good things we chat here. But what is interesting about this business rescue practitioner is a great read in Turf Talk about how it's all put together. Charles Pretorius puts together a great paper, and we get a lot of information from them. If you have anything that you think could concern the running of Pumalela or misrun, and certainly as far as anything underhand is concerned, you can email John Evans at rsadvisors.co.za. That is his email address. It is there in Turf Talk, John Evans at rsadvisors.co.za. Lots of people had a lot to say about how things went with Pumalela. Well, we might shed some light on that when we do chat to David Saffi. He should be coming in the next couple of minutes through to us, and we're looking forward to getting him. I do know that he sent me a couple of voice messages of meetings that he had with various players in the game that had obviously recorded the meetings. And Joe, Kimberley closing's a bad move. We all believe this exactly the same, Joe. You're in the majority there. We really think Kimberley is not a good move, and I think Kimberley is vitally important for South African racing, and it might even be well worth looking at reopening Bloemfontein as well, because those 2 meetings in those 2 places, it gives you a lesser meeting grass track and a lesser meeting sand track. You could run opposite weeks. You could run them 52 weeks a year. You could run Kimberley and Bloemfontein, and it's certainly close enough for people to raid from Johannesburg or from KwaZulu-Natal to be able to get there and go and see what happens as far as the racing is concerned there. It's very sad, and already we've had one trainer that's defected to the Cape. I'm not sure that that's going to be so easy, but he's got money behind him, so hopefully it works out for Corey Lensley. We've got Zietz has just started. Zietsman Woesthuizen just started in Kimberley. And here we have David Saffi, Nikki Anderson, Kimberly closing short-term or permanent. We only know in the end of December. David Saffi, are you with us?
Yes, I am, James.
Right. Well, I'm going to put you on the speakerphone here, and I hope that everyone can hear you. And nice to have you back after Tuesday.
Thanks, James. And you know, your show's so popular. I've received so many calls, and I mustn't forget our good friend Jacques Hugo said, please tell James there's a farm in Michalisburg, I think it is, but there's a farm where him and Les have taken their horses, and the owner of the farm says that any owner that wishes to put his horses or horse on their farm is more than welcome to do it. There's ample grazing ground. So if there are any owners out there who've got a problem with their horses, they can just put on the farm at no charge. He's prepared to keep the horses there at no charge for owners.
Well, that is absolutely fantastic and really good news. I wonder if you could post the information through to someone like Charles Pretorius at Turf Talk, if he could give them a number or something. You know, he would be, I would think, the right way, and certainly Sporting Post will help as well as far as this is concerned. They've always been great supporters of us, and I'm sure they're supporters of you as well. I know that Charles certainly tried to get you involved with Henry Wilkinson. Wasn't that the start of where we finished off the other day?
Yes. So, you know, after Charles saw the site, I mean, being a racing man and a world-class racing journalist, he immediately saw the value, the potential, and he you know, wanted to get involved. And at that stage, I just sort of produced it. I had no intention of selling it. And I received a lot of offers since then. In fact, every proper racing man that saw Formgrids after that has only had one thing to say, and that's, wow, this is excellent. This is such a beautiful tool. This is so good for racing. That's why I was so surprised when I took it to the RA. And I spoke to Larry and I showed it to Larry, and he just said, he came back to me, which he denied afterwards. But I mean, I can only tell the truth. I'm not sure to bull dust anybody. But I said, Larry, but why? I mean, why wouldn't you guys want to further Formgrids? And he said, no. Well, Merle Parker said no.
Okay, so let me understand. You started this whole process in about 2003, 2004. Charles must have seen it about that time. When is the timeline to when you next started showing it to people in racing to try and get some support?
I went to the guys at Pumalela. And
when was that?
I went to David Attenborough. That would have been shortly after Formgrids was running for a while, and every day our users and views were just picking up and up and up. It was like just an upward spiral on the Google stats, you know?
Yes.
And I mean, we all know, I knew how good it was. I mean, I knew what I'd used it for. Like I say, everybody, Gary, Soma, you name it, that was racing experts, they all loved it. When I showed it to V. Moodley, V, who had been the chief handicapper, and he was on the international panel of handicappers, he immediately wanted to do that show with me, which was in form with Formgrids. So I approached Rion at Pumalela, and I spoke to Clyde. And I must say one thing, Clyde assisted us everywhere he could. He really did bend over backwards. They got certain, they had to get new equipment into the studio so that they could show Formgrids on the screen without it producing any kind of like scratchy picture, you know. So they got the new equipment installed. Everything was good. We were all set to go with Formgrids. We shot the pilot, and what it was going to be was what we proposed was, after every race meeting or twice a week, we'd do a show with like experts. It didn't necessarily have to be me on the show, but like invite people like Pierre Stradum and, Gary, and even guys like Frankie who crazy for their racing, where they could review the day's racing. So you would look at Formgrids, you'd look at the results, you'd see who was the favorite, and you would now say, right, this happened, they ran to form, they never ran to form, and you would just keep the punters updated constantly about the racing, and you could at the same time do preview an upcoming meeting and review the meeting that's just been finished, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay, so this must have been before I interviewed you in 2011 on Winning Ways.
Yes, it would have been way before. But even before that, David Attenborough, who was with Pumalela.
Yes, he ended up at Tabcorp in Australia.
Tabcorp, yes. When I went to him and I started discussing with him, he said to me, he says he doesn't understand it because every time he goes into a meeting, board meeting, and he mentions my name, he says he gets such a bad, hostile kind of a reaction because he was trying to move this thing along. He also liked it very, very much, And then Betfair phoned me. And they said they'd like to use my product with their product. They ended up using Timeform when I never went with them because David Attenborough said to me, don't go with Betfair. They're going to be outlawed in most places of the world because, remember, my original idea, I don't know if I mentioned it, was a world database of form.
Well, you did, because that's how you set the whole thing up. You got all the form lines from America, UK, and all over when you first set it up.
Yes. What we were trying to do was if a horse goes from here to Dubai or to Mauritius or to Hong Kong or wherever they go, the form goes with them. So immediately you can see how good the horse is, where does he fit in around the world. So you no longer have to do a thumb suck where some handicappers in Hong Kong want to rate their horse a 130 and some handicappers in the UK want to rate their horse a 130 and here in South Africa, and it's all on a wobbly
well, there's no uniformity as far as handicapping is concerned, which is a problem we have now with our 10-point race.
It's like when I went to Hong Kong and there were all the New Zealand breeders and all the different guys there and they were all raving about Variety Club. And I said, yes, Variety Club is a very good horse. I said, but I'll bring 3 horses from South Africa that would have wiped this field out exactly the same. And I said, no, you're crazy. What are you talking about? You're mad. And I said, there's a horse called Give Me the Green Light. And there were 1 or 2 others because it's simple. You look at the form and you can see where Variety Club fitted in, who fitted in right next to Variety Club. And, so with a world database of form, you don't need to thumb suck. You don't need to build horses up as potential champions that aren't, and you can identify who the champions are, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay, so David, we understand, and I think everyone that listens to you will understand that Formgrids is a world-class betting tool. What we want to know is where it all went wrong and why it all went wrong, in your opinion. And I'm just going to say at the outset that you have a number of voice clips, which I didn't think we would use them on the show, which implicate quite a number of people. So there is backup to whatever you say. And I've listened to the voice clips, and I accept that they are genuine and that they are from the people who are supposedly speaking. When I spoke to you in 2011, you already had negative feedback from Pumalela as far as Formgrids was concerned.
Yes.
What happened between 2003 and 2011?
Okay, so like I say, when I first approached Larry, and then Larry said no, and I said, what do you mean, Larry? No, this is a brilliant product and it must be introduced to racing because it caters for racing and for everybody. It's a beautiful tool. We can get a lot of people involved in.
David, if I may ask you, how much did you ask for? What were the terms
No,
when you
nothing.
spoke to the Racing
At that
Association?
stage, we hadn't even discussed terms. We discussed nothing. I just said, I got a brilliant product. I'd like to introduce it into the industry so that we can, you guys can assist me, that I can get a second programmer, because remember, I was paying Wolfgang out of my pocket.
Yes.
I was paying all the staff, all the costs, and it wasn't easy. And Clyde Basil had taken a 2,500 ad from the RA, and I knew Larry now took over from Clyde, and I had to go through Larry, and then Larry said to me, Merle Parker said no. So for years, I walked around not knowing who Merle Parker was and thinking, why the hell would this Merle Parker say no? Until I eventually plucked up the courage one day and went up and met Merle. And boy, I must tell you, what a fantastic human being.
Yeah, lovely
Merle,
person. Lovely person.
Lovely person. And she had absolutely nothing to do with it. And Merle and Penny and the ladies there at the RA and Vanessa and Angie, I mean, they do such a fantastic job for racing. But I think Larry didn't want to tell me that he was saying no. So at the time he used Merle. But that sort of stumped me, because I didn't know who Merle was. I didn't know why she would have anything against me. So it sort of threw me off.
I must ask the question, why would Larry say no? Have you ever got to the bottom of that?
Well, you know, many years ago when I started the South African Race Goers Association, and we had our very first meeting at Gosforth Park in the 80s, I think it was in 86, where we met as punters on the stands, and we were protesting when that horse Gyros had cut his leg before he jumped, before the start of the race. And Gyros actually finished last as an 8 to 10 favourite, and it had broken the class record first time out. It was its second run. It was expected to win, or at least finish second or third. And when it ran last and 400 metres behind him last, and the commentator had been saying he's playing up in the pens, he's rearing, I knew he injured himself, and that's when I wanted him to be declared a non-runner, so punters get a refund, because clearly he cut himself before he raced, and the rules of racing state every horse must enter that race with a fair chance of winning.
Yes.
So, and I did notice the blood streaming down his leg. I went to the chief staff. I said that Gyros is bleeding from the leg. He must have cut himself before he raced. But I think when I started Saga after that upset a lot of people in racing, because at that stage they must have felt that punters were nobody, and punters mustn't have a voice, and punters mustn't have an opinion. But I think, at that stage I had just become a professional punter, and I couldn't see punters being treated as riffraff, when in fact they were the lifeblood of the game at that particular time, funding the pools. But I think it upset a lot of people at that time that I stood up to authority and that I made a noise. And I don't know if you remember, eventually I got onto that program Network after on the news with was it John Bishop, I think it was, that ran that news program Network.
Okay, so but this is I'm trying to ascertain what happened. All right, there must have been bad blood, let's say, but yes, what happened between 2004 and 2011? Why on earth would the industry not have wanted to explore your product? And then what happened post that, when the industry started sort of, I don't know, from what I can gather, copy your product?
You see, yes, that's what made me already know. That's why I was so confident when on your show I said, you watch what shareholders in Pumalele and the like do to racing. They are going to cripple racing, which they've done. But I said it with confidence because I could see that very people running racing didn't have racing's interest at heart. Because anybody who had racing's interest at heart would have grabbed Formgrids, moved it forward, aided it, and developed it, because it was a very good development for horse racing. As Bean Moodley put it, he said, Formgrids takes handicapping a step further. we had sort of found like handicapping had reached a pinnacle around the world and form, and we had found the way forward, if you know what I'm saying.
All right,
And that,
David,
yeah.
David, you know exactly what you're saying. We all know, because we're all, and I'm not just talking about the few guys that are listening to this, we are all converted. We know Formgrids is a fantastic tool. What I'm trying to ascertain is why Formgrids never got the respect.
You see, they liked
support.
Formgrids. They liked Formgrids. That's why they copied it. But they didn't like the man behind Formgrids.
So this was purely a personality thing.
Well, it can only be a personality thing, because there's no other reason to have knocked it. And you must remember, Formgrids was up for 14 years without a problem. Suddenly Formgrids gets hacked, and 1 month later the copycat site goes up.
Okay, let's talk. Okay, so we're now moving well forward in time. And what happened in that period, we're not quite sure, because it seems like a guy like David Attenborough was behind you and supported you. V. Woodley supported you. There were people that didn't support you, but it still begs the question: why was there not enough support to be able to get it up and running?
Well, you see, Rion came into racing with no racing experience.
Okay.
So he knew nothing. He had to lean on certain people to get recommendations or advice.
Okay.
And unfortunately, some of the people that he kept mentioning their names, that why, if Formgrids was any good, why hasn't so-and-so said anything to me? And I don't want to keep repeating the same names, because it's going to sound like I'm gunning for people where I'm not.
Okay.
I'm just telling you the story of what I had to experience. But to put it in another way, when they opened up the club elite for all the tabs.
What year was that? Because I'm trying to get a timeline here.
Sure. I think this was 2000, maybe 11, 12, 9, when they opened all the club elites. Yeah. Nico had to launch at Bedford Centre. So it was, the whole point was to try and get the bigger and better player into the bigger spenders into this club elite, and get them to play and feel comfortable and come and spend their money for turnover.
Yes.
Turnover, as you know, funds the game, as we all know. And yet I was sitting there with Jacques Hugo, owner of many horses, Patrick Khalil, owner of many horses, Buckley Pretorius, a very big gambler on sport and horses, and myself. And they wouldn't even invite us into the club tab. They made us, we had to sit outside while all the important people in racing who arrived went in there, and it ended up, it was such a waste of time, because only a handful of people arrived, yet they wouldn't invite 4 people there that are racing crazy and big spenders. So Jacques was a bit upset, and he said, you know, he doesn't mind going in there and waking everybody up a little bit, you know, his way. And I said, Jacques, leave it. Don't even go down to those measures. And eventually they brought all the leftover food inside, because no one was there to eat the food. And then they came to us and said, eat. And we said, no, thanks.
Who was this? Was this Tab or Pumalala?
Well, Nico was there and Larry was there, and then Larry's brother Ricky came out, and because we practically said, no, call Ricky, man. And Ricky, why aren't we invited in? Like, you know, we're all big racing players. It's an opening night. If you guys care about racing, surely we should be invited in. And of course, that's where Ricky made the famous quote of, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Okay, so the point is that you're obviously persona non grata with the racing public.
Yes,
but
I'm not good and fit enough to mix with the decent people and to introduce anything decent.
Don't underestimate yourself, okay? But at the end of the day, you have a product, okay? And what I'm trying to get my head around is how this product was not accepted, and why whoever it was went ahead and tried to go into opposition with you, and who knows what harm it might have dealt you. But at the end of the day, your product is still there and still a wonderful product.
See, I knocked on every door I could, James, and everybody just stonewalled me. It all went back to certain individuals, and it was always
What did
no.
you?
But eventually the RA board instructed Larry to go and do a deal with David. They said, Formgrids is good for racing, go and do a deal with David. So Larry walked past me in Bedford Centre the one day and he said, the board has told me to make you an offer of $2 million for Formgrids, take it or leave it. So I said, no, Larry, I'm not taking that deal. We can sit down and talk about a deal. He said, no, they told me to offer you $2 million, take it or leave it. The board later on, when we read the minutes, didn't give a figure. They just said to him, make a deal with David. Formgrids is good for racing.
What deal on this point? Okay, what deal did you want to make with them?
Right, the deal had to be an ongoing deal where there was a partnership and money put in for research and development to keep enhancing what we had. The last thing I wanted to do was hand over something to some people who end up making changes and destroy it, whereas it wasn't even complete yet. There's still so much I had to offer to add to Formgrids. But I needed a second programmer, and programmers don't come cheap. So there was no way I could work and pay Wolf and pay the staff and pay everything and only have a handful of people supporting me in the industry, and I've got to find more money than I can because I've still got my own overheads, my own home, my own vehicles to pay, whatever.
Yeah.
So I needed industry support to get this program to its full potential.
Okay, let's just pause there for a moment. So they basically offered you $2 million. You didn't want $2 million, but you wanted to be able to do a deal whereby you could probably carry on as, let's say, if I came to you and said this, David, we're going to take over this company, or we're going to inject funds into this company. And we're going to keep you on as a managing director. We're going to pay you a salary, and we're going to pay the people that you employ, and we're going to pay some extra people in the forms of programmers or whatever you need. Let's build it into something that's going to work, which was your vision worldwide. Would you have looked at something like that?
Of course. And as I said, when Joey Soma took me to Rob Scott at Teletrack, I didn't want a salary. I was prepared to work for free. Just pay for another programmer because we wanted to put Computer Form and Formgrids together in one to give the punter the ultimate form guide.
Yes.
You see, so I gave Rob Scott an approximate figure of what it may cost to run it per month.
What was that?
Well, I think it was about 130K a month. Yeah. But what I said to him is that we make the money up from, if you see all the other websites, they're all supported by Pumalela and Tab and Betting World and Teletrack and Gold Circle. They all take out of their budget.
So basically advertising would have paid towards that money, and you could have charged what we've always said. And, we've always understood that you're one of those men that are very principled. What we've always said is that there should be a subscriber base. And we've seen that what happened with Pumalela was that they formed teletrack.com, which had a subscriber base. You couldn't get on there without being a subscriber. And surely on that basis, it would have gone some way to be able to limiting the costs. Would that have suited you? Would you have done something on that basis?
Of course, that would have worked. But then Rob Scott had his meeting with Dievan Moller in Cape Town at the Cape Sales. And
who's Dievan Moller?
He was doing some other work for CTS. And
is he a programmer? Is he a programmer?
He's a programmer that apparently at one stage phoned Wolfgang and said to Wolfgang that he would like to assist Wolfgang. And Wolfgang normally sends the guys a little test. And if they pass that test, then he knows they are of the standard that we need to
employ,
but I don't think he got round to Dievan. So by the time I said to Dievan, what are you up to and all of that, and why don't you join Formgrids? And then he said, no, he did try in the beginning, but Wolfgang never got back to him. And then he said he was building an app for CTS, and he was also doing some work for Rob Foe, which I only found out later when Rob Foe phoned me to tell me what Diavan had told him about his meeting with Rob Scott. And that's the stuff that I got on the voice clips.
All right, give us an idea of who Rob Foe is, so that we can piece it all together.
Rob Foe had a program called Formstar.
Okay.
And Formstar was a horse racing program, and he was getting Diavan to enhance his program with stats and times and, all of those things. And apparently Diavan told him at that meeting that he was approached by Rob Scott, and I don't want to say who else, but let's just say Rob Scott. And he was asked how much to build a site like Formgrids, because Formgrids want too much money and they want to build a similar site, which, as Rob Poe said to me in other voice clips, which I haven't played you yet, he said, just wait and see. If another site comes out that looks like Formgrids, then we know exactly that this whole thing is 100% true. And after we got hacked down, suddenly another site appears that's exact copy of Formgrids.
What site's that, David?
Racebook.
Racebook. That's owned by Pumalela, is it?
Well, Pumalela, Gold Circle, Kenilworth Racing are now treating it as an industry site, and they're funding it, and it's taken the exact role that we proposed to Rob Scott that we do between Formgrids and Computer Form. And Joey Soma was with me in the meetings. He can tell you. Okay,
so what it looks like is that you got middled, as one of my friends says here.
Yeah, I got middled.
But this is business, David. And that's what people will say. Well, this is business. This is the way things work. This is the way people do things, which is very unfortunate, because both you and I don't like doing things like that. We like to be up front, and we like to be in front of everyone.
James, the lack of ethics is what's taken racing to its knees.
Yes. Well, this seems like a situation that there's certainly ethical problems as far as is concerned. What is the support for Racebook today as opposed to Formgrids? Because I know you still had and you kept it going until recently, when you explained to us you started trying to get the whole thing out.
So you just reminded me why we approached Larry and the RA in the first place was to get their database of owners. So It was many years ago, and once we got the database of owners, then when an owner's horse gets nominated and it's in the entries, then the SMS or the email goes to tell them where it is with a link, so immediately he can go click on there into the entries, see where his horse is entered, so owners get kept up to date. And also what we were going to do was, like, if you say there's 15 runners in the field, and you had a runner in that field as an owner and a trainer, and now when a horse comes out of that form line and wins or runs second or third or 10th, you get an email saying, on the 16th of June, your horse,
X whatever, doesn't matter.
X whatever, ran and finished 8 lengths behind so-and-so who came out to win his next start or to run nowhere. Just something to keep the owner and the trainer and everybody up to date with everything, because what I found is the more you know about a sport and the more you know about all the details, the deeper in you get, because now you understand, you learn, you know that this is what should happen tomorrow, and then when you see it actually happen, it opens your mind, and you just get more and more and more involved in racing. And the whole reason of allowing Formgrids onto the internet was to pull people into racing, to capture them, to educate them, so that the game would thrive and build.
All right, let's now move a step further. So Racebook is now built, okay, by Diavan Moller for the racing business in South Africa. And the racing business, I'll say that
apparently it was for Whelan Smith.
Vayon Smith.
And Mark Bass, and the names they mentioned to me was Grant Knowles and a couple of people. It was built for them, apparently.
Well, I
phoned Mark Bass, and I said, Mark, it's not good for us. It's not good for you. It's not good for me. You've just copied my product. Why don't you let me design you your own product, and then I'll design something for you guys, and you guys can use it, and it belongs to you. Your own way of showing form. Don't copy mine, because by you copying mine, later on somebody's just going to copy you, and it's a big mess up. Let's do it properly. Let's do it ethically, that I don't have to fight with you. You don't have to fight with me, and this doesn't bring disgrace on all of us later down the line.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because John Sweet, who's probably the biggest online tipping business in South Africa, or certainly one of the biggest, has just written a comment here. He said, "I use Racebook purely for the race replays, which is linked to Teletrack, but faster. All other form study is better on Formgrids." So here's a man who's actually giving you the thumbs up as far as Formgrids form study is concerned. But that is the problem. If you'd been linked to Teletrack and race replays, and you'd been able to make an all-in-one, all-encompassing
we were, James. We were. Years ago, we had every race on Formgrids, every start report on Formgrids. You just had to click, watch the race replay, click, watch, read the starts report.
Okay, so what happened? Why did that go away?
Because our support started to get stripped. If I can say, there was a clique there that definitely were out to get me for whatever reasons, and I was often tipped off. Although I was middled, I knew what was coming most of the time. But remember one thing, James, I worked a full-time job where I had to be, if you read chapter 13 of the President's Keepers, you will read, you'll see exactly which individual I am described in chapter 13. Okay. It's there. But I ended up working with some very serious people in a very serious industry, and I had to be responsible as part of a team from early in the day till late at night. And there's only so much money you can earn in 1 month. And when people are not supporting you and the support gets stripped, like when Larry walked past me and he said, "And by the way, get that ad off Formgrids, RA ad off Formgrids." And I said to him, "Larry, but it's a lousy 2,500 rand ad. Why must I pull it off?" He said, "Because we can't afford it. The RA can't afford it." So there went a small little 2,500 little ad, so my support was stripped. All the support I built, what was his name? Advocate Altus Jabir from the TBA had supported me, and wherever I had support, suddenly when, different people came in, suddenly all my support was stripped. So now it became almost impossible for me to live this double life, because a lot of the work I had to do after hours on my own, thousands of hours of work, because I couldn't afford to just keep hiring more people and more data capturers, and especially with the support down, and also some of the editing took expertise. If you never had the expertise, you were going to make mistakes. Yeah. And the last thing I ever wanted was mistakes on Formgrids, because we wanted a clean, good product that the punter can rely on our information,
Okay, let's now, right, there's a wonderful story, because you've given us a background, and obviously, slowly but surely, you got eradicated out the system. But there's still people that use you. We're now 2020, in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic, as they call it. What would you want or see from the industry? Because I want to finish like this. What would you want the industry to do as far as Formgrids is concerned? Let's say there were people out there that wanted to revive you and put you into a position where Formgrids is a viable proposition. How would you approach it this time?
Well, if there was somebody that was listening, I'd say let's have a look at everything. Let's look at the numbers. Let's get a second programmer to assist Wolfgang on the development, and between the two of them, we can get this whole world database going, where whatever nationality you are, it's names and numbers. So it's a universal form guide, and all they have to do is just assist with the costs recover the costs any way they like, from advertising, from subscriber base, from whatever they want to do. But we have to keep enhancing it and keeping it ahead.
Okay.
Because, yeah.
I like that, because I think that gives us a base where we can start from with you. And, who knows what might come out of this and this discussion that we've had. But my gut feel is that there will be people that come out of the ashes of what's happened, okay, who will say, hang on a moment, there are ways to actually revive our industry. And let's look at all the ways. And one of the ways is punter, communication, and involvement. And one of the things I would suggest, and I would say it quite clearly and quite straightforward, why is a program like Formgrids not taken over by the industry on the basis that it was set up and then sold to subscribers? It is a better tool than any of the others on the market. I know that there are other tools, but I can tell you there's no better tool. And really, as a result of what's happened in the past, there's no point in now going back there, because that's happened. What we need to do is we need to go forward and build this platform.
Well, James, I'm here. It's 20 years later, so I think my best years have passed me for energy. But yes, I'm definitely keen, if anybody's interested, to look forward and to get this thing to where it should be. Because remember, the original vision is in my head, so no matter who copies it, they don't have the vision of what I have, and they don't know what the next steps are, but I do.
Well,
so, yes.
I would think the one huge advantage you have is the universal advantage. To get a universal product. We send our racing to 42 countries apparently around the world who bet on our product. Now, surely you'd like those 42 countries to be able to go on a site like Formgrids in its entirety and maybe in a new guise, and be able to work out form so that they could punt with some type of real credibility on our product. I see it as a way forward, not as a way back, David. And I really respect you for having spoken to us about it, and respect you for the way you've tried to get this thing going. And I feel for you, I must tell you, and there are a lot of people that feel for you, because we do feel that you have not been well done by the industry. But there's a way forward, and I always look forward. I believe that we live for the day, and let's see what the future brings. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, James. And, must say, one of my favorite things has always been winning way. It's such a racing program, and it's just, between you and Lef and the way you do your show, I was so disappointed when it got pulled off Teletrack, because that was like sort of the only thing that I was still watching other than the actual race.
Well,
so keep going.
We're in the same sort of position. That's what it boils down to. And we're in the same sort of position because of what happened. Who knows what's going to come out of the future, but we're here still. And we're going to try and make things better in the future. That's what I think that the whole plan is. And hopefully
James,
you're part of it.
Just one last thing. All the time when this whole clique was against me, and they even put a 11,500 rand a month payment on the feed, and they even cut my feed, and they cut it in December, and then they cut it again just before the July, and you don't want to know. But I kept on thinking to myself, how on earth do you beat this monster? These guys are flying high, they live in the life, they do as they please, they answer to nobody. And in the back of my mind, what I know now is that if there's a place where people cannot get justice, then God intervenes. And the whole industry actually collapsed, because the guys who were running it became a law unto themselves, and their motives were extremely selfish and wicked. And I'm sorry to say, but I have to add that piece, because that's what I believe in my heart. God himself put them on their knees. So yes, let's try and build it up with truth, with honesty, with goodness, and stick to the right principles in racing. And yes, we can rebuild the racing industry.
And we will do that, David, with the help of you and many other people. There are many people out there who really believe that this industry is sustainable, that there are people involved in this industry who really want to do good for it. And I appreciate what you've done. You've spent your whole life trying to give something. 20 years is a long time to give something to the industry which really needed it. In my opinion, that's what I feel. And all the best to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
One last thing, I cannot thank Michelle Nierak enough for his assistance. Graham Hawkins was also a star. He helped us a hell of a lot. And I must say goodbye to my good friend Alfie Little, who was always there to help racing people in the way he could.
Wonderful man.
People that I have to mention.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. And you and your support group, just keep it going and we'll see what we can do to put it right.
Great stuff. Thank you, James. All the best.
David Saffi, what a nice man. And really, it's sad. This is what this has brought us. We're not sure what the ins and outs are, but the story, it doesn't bode well, and certainly looks to be a story of deceit and lack of real insight and support. Anyway, there's not much we can do about what people have done in the past. The past is over. So let's move forward. I really believe a guy like David Saffi and his site is of huge benefit if used correctly in the future of racing. There's so many things that we can do right in this industry if people are prepared to give of themselves. And there are a lot of people out there that are prepared to give of themselves and work very, very hard for this industry. Thanks to all of you out there. Are there any questions that you'd like to ask me quickly before we go? Because it's been a good show, and certainly, Nikki, a book may easily come out about this, but the problem is who will have the guts to write the book, Looking forward to hoping local racing resumes. Mike de Kock, very disgruntled. Yeah, I was disappointed in that discussion, but anyway, because it really didn't give us any insight. But Mike, I know Mike's given his heart and soul to it. Another man that has given everything to racing. He's put in so much more than he should put in, and most people would have put in. He's not a taker, he's a giver. David Saffi is another one of those guys. There are many people out there in this industry who are givers and not takers. I'm hoping to get Hilton Witz on Sunday. He's said that he'd like to talk to me, and I've extended the offer to him for him to come on and have a chat to me. There's some things that I think that he could and I could certainly chew over and get to the bottom of. So let's hope that happens. If it doesn't, there are many other people out there that I would like to talk to, one of them being Charles Fall. He is certainly on my list of people that we should be talking to. Thank you to all of you for listening, and please share it with your mates. And John, thank you for all your help. And I think we should just hold fire at this stage and work through this. And when we work through this and get some future as far as where we're going to go, what happens with the companies in racing, then we can start making plans to get everyone going. But thank you so much to all of you for joining me. And please share it with all your friends and tell them to subscribe. We need subscribers, and it's great having you there anyway. All the best and great weekends racing. Enjoy.